Tens of thousands of people in Myanmar are still living in tents months after dozens of Muslims died in ethnic clashes. The violence between the Rohingyas and Buddhists in Rakhine State has left a population deeply divided. Al Jazeera's Florence Louis sent us this exclusive report from the camps around Sitwe Township in Rakhine State.
This is all that's left of a village where two ethnic groups, the Rakhine and Rohingya, used to live. There's no reason for anyone to be here now. Homes were allowed to burn to the ground, and the villagers have long fled. For generations, the Rohingya have suffered from discrimination. Around 800,000 of them are denied citizenship under a law that was passed 30 years ago. The distrust now runs so deep that police regularly patrol areas that divide the homes of the two ethnic groups. Tens of thousands of the displaced people are still living in temporary accommodation. The Rohingya, who are mostly Muslims, live in tent shelters set up outside of town. They survive on food rations given by aid groups.
I want to go home because when it rains here in the camp, the water rises up. If I can't go back home, I want to go to another country. It's not healthy for the children to be in the camp.
But returning home is impossible because it's still not safe.
The people were very afraid, so that's why they came to the camp. Now the government is instructing the Rohingya to go to the refugee camps.
The ethnic clashes that began in June were sparked by reports that a Buddhist Rakhine woman had been raped by 3 Rohingya Muslim men. Both sides have been accused of atrocities, but the latest clashes appear to have deepened long-held prejudices against the Rohingya.
They are very cruel, very scary. They have a bad character like a devil. These devils come from another country, Bangladesh.
It's not just the Rohingya who've been displaced. The Buddhist Rakhines who've lost their homes have been moved into monasteries, although life here is more comfortable than at the camps. The market is within walking distance, making it easier for them to retain some semblance of normal life. But there were no Rohingya customers on the day Al Jazeera was there, and the stalls once owned by Muslims remain shuttered. The government has recently said it would accept more aid to cope with the number of displaced people. But unless there's reconciliation between the two communities, it's not clear how it will achieve a long-term solution. Florence Louis, Al Jazeera.
The Rohingyas, who are they? 800,000 of the Muslim minority group live in Myanmar, mostly in the northwestern Rakhine State, which borders Bangladesh. Myanmar refuses to recognize them as citizens, saying they, quote, illegally entered the country during the partition of India. The ethnic violence of the last few months has prompted 40,000 Rohingyas to flee to Bangladesh. They are unwelcome there as well. Bangladesh has even banned aid groups from helping them. And one of the affected charities, Muslim Aid UK, its head of international programs, Imran Madden, joins me now from London. The deadline has passed, or it's about to be reached for aid groups to leave. Are you taking your people out of the country now?
Well, we've had to respond, and as you quite rightly say, that there is a deadline. We, together with a number of other aid organisations, were asked to effectively shut down our programmes that are servicing the Rohingya refugees that have already crossed into Bangladesh many years ago, I have to say. And, you know, we have to respect the government. It has the sovereign authority in Bangladesh, of course. So we are complying with the decision together with those other aid agencies. However, we feel that it's not the right decision. We feel that we're referring it back to the Bangladeshi government. We are asking them to reconsider their decision, especially as it comes in the month of Ramadan, which is traditionally a month when we extend our services and we open our arms even further to those that are most vulnerable. So it's a very difficult decision, but we are responding by suspending a number of our operations in the area. But,
Mr. Madden, there are two sides to this with your pull-out and the pull-out of the other aid agencies, it seems to me. One is that they won't get the help which you were able to offer them, and the second is that there won't be outside eyes looking on to see that they are treated in a more humane way. What do those people you've had to leave behind there, these refugees, fear might happen to them next?
Well, I mean, it's the classic story of the refugee anyway. I mean, when we were there providing our services, we've been there for 3 or 4 years providing essential services like healthcare and water and sanitation facilities. I mean, even in these situations, the relationships with the host community is always very fragile. This is a very classic refugee camp scenario when you've got a very close host community. But I'd like to emphasize the positives. There have been many cases where, for example, Muslim Aid extends a number of healthcare services to the local Bangladeshi community, partly because there's a need, but also we realize that you know, it's an important part of the allaying fears of the local community, reassuring them that actually the presence of the Rohingya refugees isn't bad. The presence of the NGOs that are servicing the refugees can actually be a very good story for them as well. So, for example, in the clinics in the refugee camps, 54% of those that receive the support are in fact the local Bangladeshis. But to answer more specifically your question,
I can understand the reasons for you wanting to paint your presence in a positive light to the Bangladeshi authorities, because you'd like to be able to go back in there. But tell me about the worries of those Rohingyas who you've left behind.
Sure.
What have they been able to tell your people about what they think might happen to them next?
Well, I mean, if I can refer to instances in the past where NGOs, our partners, have had to suspend certain parts of their operation. For example, one of our partners had to suspend water supply operation. Now, what happens is then the Rohingyans have to go and fetch water in the local community. That brings about tension because they're trying to access very limited resources from the host community. So we've had experience in the past where that increases tension. There's the likelihood of conflict. Now, if you go back to the point about water and sanitation, if you stop providing water and you stop maintaining the sanitation system in a camp, the likelihood of the outbreak of waterborne diseases is that much more likely. So, you know, they're very nervous. We are trying to, you know, maintain a very small presence. It is a skeleton staff. I mean, effectively the countdown is from tomorrow, because, you know, there are emergency services that we need to respond to if somebody breaks their leg or if there's
are they concerned are you concerned that they will be force marched across the border into Myanmar?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I think I would like to think that, you know, with the suspension, I think the authorities in Bangladesh will see that actually the solution really is in dialogue. It's in discussing things with the NGOs, with our donors. We're receiving a lot of support from the European community. The answer is in dialogue and discussion. It's about negotiation, it's about pragmatism, and we really feel that this will probably be the outcome. We're very confident that the Bangladeshi government, we realise it's a challenge. 300,000 refugees is an enormous challenge. However, closing down the refugee camps will be an absolute humanitarian disaster. Because of our humanitarian remit, we are fully committed to supporting the refugees. However, we understand that we've been given the order to close down and we must respond to that.
Okay.
But we will maintain a skeleton service. We'll go back to the Bangladeshi government. We're encouraging our partners, we're encouraging the OIC, the British government and our other NGO partners to maintain the pressure on the Bangladeshi government to maintain our services, and we're confident that, you know, the right decision will be made in the end.
Thank you. That's Imran Madden talking from Muslim Aid UK. Appreciate your time.